for that. My lords, the chairperson is also criticized for setting out the result path at the National Tallying Center. He is telling the public, this is how we'll carry out the function of tallying and verifying. How can that be a source of criticism? Nobody is saying that there's a promise you made in the result path that was not followed. And my lords and my ladies, it's a humble submission that the process that was followed at the National Tallying Center, which is set out in the Gazette notice that I do not need to read out to you, was transparent, was verifiable, and was in accordance with the provisions of the Constitution. None of the agents that were involved and that signed the Form 34A has denied that they signed it. Nobody has come to challenge any particular document saying that it is not their document. And an interesting question was asked yesterday. How was a handwritten document to have been changed? In fact, by having it handwritten, it helps in ensuring that if there is any alteration, this is something that can be easily seen, because you can't change somebody's handwriting. And my lords, as I leave this point, it is also important to note that the agents of the presidential candidates, all of them, all four presidential candidates, their agents were at the National Tallying Center on the day. All of them. They participated in the process of tallying and verification. None of them has sworn an affidavit saying any of the numbers that were being or the exercise that was being undertaken was wrong. None of them has picked a document, and they were allowed to take copies of all the documents. They were allowed to take images. None of them has complained about that process. Then we go to the issue of the 27 constituencies, and this makes me feel very sad, because, my lords and my ladies, as this process was going on the 15th of August, at about 3 o'clock, the whole exercise of tallying and verifying had been completed, and that is in the affidavit of Marjan and Professor Goulier. Members of certain political parties decided that it was time to stop a process that had already started. We all watched in horror on TV as members, some of them who were in this court, confronted the chairperson, threw down the pulpit where he was to announce the results, threw down chairs, assaulted the chairperson and the commissioners. In fact, Professor Goulier, the chairperson, and the CEO were injured. And we have attached documents showing the injuries that they sustained. And the intention was to stop the declaration from being made. Now, this is critical, my lords. Everybody has said why it is important that a government should not be established by means other than those set out in the Constitution. But equally, nobody should stop the process of the Constitution that result in the establishment of a government in accordance with its provisions. Stopping that process is equivalent to preventing the Constitution from being effected. It's a transgression against the Constitution. And it cannot fall from the lips of those people who tried to stop that process to come before you and say the results of 27 constituents were not publicly announced, and yet you are the one who precipitated a situation where there was disorder, there was chaos. And this chairperson and the members of the commissions were now in fear for their lives. How do you tell them to still turn up and come and undertake an act that you have prevented from happening? And my lords, in the second petition filed in 2017, and my lords, at this time also remember, this is a time when one of the officers of the commission one had been abducted, the other one had disappeared and feared to be dead and turned out to have been murdered in any event. This is the situation that was prevailing at that time. My lords, faced with this situation, this court in 2017 in the repeat election was categorical that you cannot foment trouble, you cannot foment chaos, and then try to use the chaos as your reason, or the non-performance of an act because of the chaos, as the reason to come before this court for relief. My lords, it is critical that it